All right, good afternoon, everyone. How's everybody doing? I heard y'all had a nice little celebration in Providence. I had meant to come, but I was trying to get everything ready here today to welcome you all here to the Greensboro History Museum. My name is Glenn Perkins. I am the curator of community history at the museum, and it is my just heartfelt pride today to be here and to welcome you to this celebration of what's really an overdue recognition for a key part of Greensboro history. I think it's Black History Month, and it's, to me, a remarkable moment because we're getting Greensboro's Black history is receiving all kinds of recognition right now. There's art projects shaping up at Gillespie Park and East White Oak Community Center to call attention to those key places in our city's history. Y'all have heard, no doubt, that the F.W. Woolworth, the International Civil Rights Center and Museum, has been recognized as a National Historic Landmark. That's fantastic, right? And today, we can embrace the first time that a Black residential neighborhood is listed and recognized on the National Register of Historic Places. Yeah, so all these things are way overdue, right? It's overdue because just like redlining sort of undervalued the economic value of properties in places like Benbow, the same way our kind of old-fashioned historical approaches have undervalued the historical and cultural meaning of these places to the city. But I think we are moving forward and really changing that and recognizing what a critical part of our story, of our whole city, these places play. So again, it's really great to be able to recognize Benbow Park, Clinton Hills, and the South Benbow Road Historic District. And today we're celebrating this designation. I want to thank our city leaders who've made time to be here today, and a couple of them will be speaking to you. I also want to thank a lot of the community people who have been involved in this project for a long time coming. Some of my colleagues here at the city of Greensboro who've really been pushing this along, finding the grants to make the work and the research that is at the heart of this nomination happen. And the people who helped pull together this party, in particular, I don't know if she'll get mentioned. I hope everybody mentions her today, but Bernita Reed in particular, right? She won't come up on stage because she doesn't like to talk on stage, but she has been sort of one of the beating hearts of this project and making this happen. We do have another one happening who will be up on stage, Eric Woodard, who I'm thrilled to have today, and so many of the folks involved, but y'all as a community, right, and as the community who lives in this historic place, it's an honor for you as well, and your contributions to keeping the spirit of this neighborhood alive is just so important to our history and to our future as a city together. So to talk a little bit more about the significance of the South Benbow Road Historic District to Greensboro, I'd like to invite up our esteemed council people, Sharon Hightower and Goldie Wells, to give a couple of remarks.
Well, the reason we're here together is because the historic district has a part of District 1 and District 2. So we both take a little ownership for the district.
So, good afternoon, everyone. And as Dr. Wells has said, thank you so much. As Dr. Wells said, we are both proud representatives of this area. I can't say enough about what this designation really means to me, to East Greensboro, and to the city of Greensboro. This is such a standout honor, and we have much to be proud of, that you all have done the work that brought this recognition to fruition. And so we as council people, we can tell people about it, what has gone on, the work that has gone on. And you know, Greensboro is known for being the first of a lot of things.
Yes.
We are now the first African-American neighborhood in Greensboro to be on the National Historic Register. So we are leading the way for others to follow our example, but to showcase the black architects, the black house designs that housed so many, oh my God, black people that just have made an impact in this community and in this city and across this nation. The doctor who desegregated Cone. I mean, you think about that. That is health care. And you know, then there are lawyers who've done phenomenal work. Judge Fry, all of these that are right here amongst our midst that are our neighbors. Just people that you all knew, that you grew up with, your friends and family, you know, so.
Well, I did a little research, and only 2 to 3% of African American historic places and sites have been recognized. We do have Dudley High School back in 2003. Some of you remember how we fought to save Dudley. So we do have that designation there. But to have this whole district, and I want to thank those who put in the labor and time, because I know there has to be a lot of research done in order to get a designation. In this country, where we are standing right now and knowing the situation in the country, it is important that we remember, as African Americans, remember how important we are to this country. What we've done, the contributions we've made. America would not be America without us. And sometimes we try to push some of the things back because we don't want to even think about how hard it was and what things were. But we've got to think about that and make sure it doesn't happen again by rising up and doing what we have to do. This is only a start for us to keep remembering those folks who fought so hard. And when I ride down Benbow Road and think about how many times I walked from where I lived on South Side up to my in-laws' house. They own the house where the Fries live now. So, you know, that to see those houses, Dr. Hughes' house, and all of those things bring back a lot of memories. So let's not forget. And you may not have a house on Benbow Road, but wherever your house was and where you grew up and what your families did, it makes an impact, and it helps us to be where we are today. So we're just proud. It's good for the city of Greensboro, but it's good for us.
It's good for us.
And for our districts. Thank you.
Thank you. And so I would be remiss if I did not recognize our colleagues who are also here today with us, and that's Mayor Pro Tem Mary Kay Azbuzawader, Councilman Hugh Holston at large, and our newest colleague, Councilwoman Jamila Pender. And so our presence here today just shows you how we really have supported you and will continue to do so, and that we are here for you. Because in September of last year, we all did a resolution to unanimously support the grants that you were getting and the designation that was being applied for. So just know that your city council stands behind you, not in front of you, but behind you. But we are here as friends and neighbors. And I do want to thank Eric Wood and Ms. Benita Reed, because Eric has been in this for 10+ years. And you know, a lot of times, we get weary, but do not grow weary, for you will eventually reap just what you sow. And today, we feel some of those benefits of this harvest. So thank you so much.
Thank you, council members, and to all of our city leaders who have really helped support this project in all its ways. I want to give one of my City of Greensboro colleagues who has also been involved in this project for a little while a chance to sort of talk from his perspective about some of the partners that have been involved, and also a little bit about the significance from the planning point of view. So Mike Cowig, who's the senior planner at the planning department, is going to talk a little for us here. Yeah, you get that.
Thank you, Glenn. Can you hear me? All right. Well, first of all, I tried very hard to get out of having to say anything today, and it didn't work. But first of all, after listening to our council people talk, and they said just about everything I would say, but that's one of the big reasons we're here today is the council support of this project. It meant everything, I can assure you. But I also wanted to just speak for the city of Greensboro. This is a project that has been ongoing for, I believe, 6 years now, Heather. And it began with a grant from the state of North Carolina to do a survey of post-World War II neighborhoods in East Greensboro, an architectural survey. And Heather Slane did that survey, and the state had pushed the city. They said, you need to do this survey. That we are realizing that there are neighborhoods in Greensboro that are underrepresented. And so this was an effort to correct that. And so that survey report, if you get a chance to read it, it's absolutely wonderful. But I didn't know the history of Benbow Park. I knew it was a great neighborhood, being from Greensboro. I didn't know the historical significance, and I think Heather has some great 2 or 3 sentences that kind of encapsulates everything. But when you combine the fact that it was the home of the leaders of and the participants in the civil rights movement in Greensboro, with the fact that the architecture is absolutely first rate, and many of the homes are designed by architects that were trained at NCA&T in the architectural engineering program, many built by black builders. It rises to a level that is really, really impressive. And it's been, I've told somebody today, this is the most rewarding project I've ever worked on in my long career with the city of Greensboro. And one thing I do want to point out is the city's role is we have an obligation to maintain an inventory of historic resources in the community. And we do that through architectural surveys that are conducted periodically. And those surveys identify areas, neighborhoods, individual properties, et cetera, that are eligible for the National Register of Historic Places. And before you can preserve historic resources, you have to identify them. And so that's our job. And we're fortunate to have people like Heather Slane in North Carolina who do brilliant work. So, and I I guess that's really everything I have to say, but I do want to just say this is a really exciting day. And no, there's one other thing I want to say. It's historic for another reason. This is the first, they're probably, Stephanie, if she's here, I think we figured this was the 14th National Register Historic District in Greensboro. This is the first celebration I'm aware of, so that makes it even more historic. So thank you very much.
Great, thank you, Mike, so much for being a part of this. And there have been so many fantastic partners. UNC Greensboro's Gateway has been important to documenting and making a lot of this information available. In your program, you'll see a list of resources that are available to learn more, to find some of the oral histories that Bernita has done that are archived at the State Archives of North Carolina. Another partner that's been involved along the way is Preservation Greensboro, and so we've invited Director Haley Maloney to talk a little bit more about the National Register and what resources are available for people wanting to take advantage of some of historic preservation in our city. So, Haley.
Thank you, everyone. I want to thank you all for coming out here today. This is an amazing event. This is an amazing milestone. And I want you all to give yourself a round of applause for not just participating in this project, but for being involved, living in the neighborhood, and stewarding the properties in the neighborhood that made it so that they could become a part of the National Register. So please. Yes. Thank you. I do want to give out a huge shout out, as you've heard before, to one of our board members, Eric Woodard, for driving this project for 10 years, and Bernita Reed for doing a bunch of the oral history work and other elements of this project. So I am also, if you look at your program, there's a little adjustment. I am also talking about what it means to be on the National Register. So the National Park Service describes the National Register as, the National Register of Historic Places is the nation's official list of historic properties and districts worthy of preservation. So just let that sink in, that this is the first African American district in this area that is worthy of recognition, and that should just feel amazing. It's a truly beautiful neighborhood with a lot of elements behind it that need to be told, need to be shared with not just the community, but the entirety of Guilford County. And I'm just so happy to be a part of this and able to help share the story to everyone. So a little bit of what the National Register means for everybody in the neighborhood. So the National Register is through the Department of the Interior and is managed by the National Park Service. Locally, we work with the National State Historic Preservation Office, which if you hear the term SHPO, that's the shorthand for that. They work on the National Register designations. And then in Greensboro, the most recent National Register was in 2006 with Sunset Hills. Benbow is the second largest National Register district in Greensboro. Okay, so let's just keep piling on the layers, y'all. Okay, so what National Register means for you guys that live in the Benbow district. There are no restrictions placed by the National Register on how you maintain your property. There are guidelines posed by the National Park Service to help you take care of the properties in ways that are accepted by the preservation community. And those can be found in preservation briefs. I'll talk about that a little bit in a moment. But the biggest element, again, is that it is an honor. It is an honor to be a part of this list. We are not the only ones that see it. It is not just local, it's not state, it's not federal, it is international. This list is available to the world for everybody to know what is important to us. And it provides for environmental reviews and oversights for federal projects, which helps with funding. And there are also abilities to apply for federal and state tax credits for rehabilitation. So if you're working on any project, you can fill out the form to receive tax credits for all of the work that you're doing on the project and get some money back. And then also in Benbow Road, or in the Benbow Road Historic District, sorry, there is about 400 resources. So that is why it is the second largest. It is very, very substantial. Okay, so I'm going to go into my presentation about historic preservation resources in Greensboro to help you guys out a little bit. And if you did grab some of the handouts on the table, the flat sheets of paper, those are all from Preservation Greensboro. There's one about our organization. We have one about our architectural salvage. And there's additionally some information about the links that you'll see at the end of this presentation, so you can figure out how to type them in. Okay. So we'll start by breaking it down between governmental and non-governmental entities. So our governmental entities federal, state, county, and city. We have the National Park Service at the federal level, and they offer a technical guide through their preservation briefs. There is, I think, over 100 of them. The state, the preservation briefs are also sorted by what you're trying to fix. So if you need historic wood repair, that's its own brief. So you can search them by topic. So they're really easy to look at too. The state has the North Carolina State Historic Preservation Office, and they have a historic preservation program on their website. There is a bunch of very helpful links, including those to the historic tax credits for the state. And for the county, so we're narrowing down a little bit. So they also provide some links that are useful to lead you towards state things, also county help as well. Their website is great. And if you just go to the homepage that's in the link below, you can see all their resources. But they do offer CLG grant programs, but those are, you mostly have to partner with an organization for those. And then the city level, one of their biggest things is they have the GIS, but they also have an amazing resource page with all of the cross-referencing of the same sort of materials, as well as area specific. And then if we go to non-governmental organizations, one really great one is at the federal level is the National Trust for Historic Preservation. Its website, as I put in, starred, underlined, bold, savingplaces.org. It is a great place, and this is, they also have a list of National Register places on there. And then they have several grant programs. They have an amazing fund at their organization called the African American Cultural Heritage Action Fund, and there is a large variety of projects that fall under that. And I believe that is the one that they are creating a GIS map for the United States, and every registered property is going to be on that map with little histories, etc. And then they also have Telling the American Story, which is one of their initiatives, and I just thought that was something that is interesting to look into. So moving to the state level, like I said, so we have the State Historic Preservation Office on the government side. On the non-governmental side, we have Preserve North Carolina, which you may know as PNC. They are kind of they are an independent nonprofit, and they work a lot like PGI, but they help the entire state, and they actually help the local, like Preservation Greensboro, Preservation Durham, all of the city preservation organizations. But they have great resources. They have the Preservation North Carolina Directory, which has some resources, and I believe that it also has contractors on it. There is help with, these are actually just the talking points on their website, so these are all links on their website. So help with tax credits, help with easements, which are very important, especially as an action item. You can put an easement on your house saying that people cannot make changes for this many years. to specific elements of the home, which helps the integrity for the National Park Service, the National Register nomination. They also have help with historic windows and help with historic building codes. And local, so we have 3 great local nonprofit agencies. Two, this one is under our umbrella. We both are very willing to help as much as we can. We help in different ways, and we are happy to answer any questions that you guys may have about preservation in general or specific. PGDF is the Preservation Greensboro Development Fund, and they are basically the matchmaker. They strive to match distressed properties with preservation-minded buyers for homeowners, and they can assist with finding resources and materials for renovations. Moving on to PGI, or our organization, we are dedicated to preserving the historic sites, culture, landmarks, neighborhoods in Guilford County area. Our efforts encompass a wide spectrum of preservation practices, from stewardship and advocacy to salvaging and reuse, and we are committing to supporting the preservation of our cultural identity. And we have a resources page on our website, and we also have a resource library that you guys are welcome to come and check out books about historic building trades and stuff like that. And then also our architectural salvage is a great resource for any elements that you might need for your projects. We are a very go with the flow nonprofit. Our goal is to put inventory back into the community, and we do that by we salvage historic buildings and collect their we collect their historical elements, and we give them back to the community. We do work on a barter system, and then we do have a great workshop series for homeowners. Okay, so again, congratulations to everybody and all of the team that made this a reality.
Hello. That's actually the first thing on here. Hello. So I'm done. No. I don't know if anyone has some water, but I want to thank you all, first of all, for coming to witness and to be a part of the celebration of an historic event. And this is actually from East Greensboro. What I've said, little old East Greensboro, but that small part of East Greensboro has a long and storied tradition of creating and making history. And we did it again. I say we, I'm an honorary member now, but December 9th, 2024 is when the South Benbow Road Historic District was listed on the National Register of Historic Places. And when I think of history, I think of a people. Thank you. I think of a people, I think of a time, and I think of a place. One moment. Within the neighborhoods along South Benbow Road that make up the newly listed, I'm going to say this a few times, the newly listed South Benbow Road Historic District, I've determined that the people were phenomenal, trailblazers and change agents. The time was tumultuous, yet empowering, and the place is now Greensboro's newest historic district to be listed on the National Register, the South Benbow Road Historic District. For me, it actually started out as a lesson in architecture back in 2013 or so, somewhere around there. But it soon transformed into multiple lessons in history. Now let's look at the juxtaposition of history and architecture. The architecture, literally providing a place for some of the most significant events in local history, national, and even world history, forming the backdrop for some of the most transformative people, players in civil rights, politics, medicine, art, sports, academia, religion, banking, astronomy, fashion, and entertainment, and I'm sure I've left out some, but providing a place for these people to discover and to fulfill their destinies. Who were some of the people behind this architecture? The architects that include some of the finest examples of modernist structures in the city, and dare I say, in North Carolina. We have a cadre of African American architects who left their indelible mark on the landscape of the district. People like architects Edward Jenkins, William Street, Gerard Gray, and Clinton Gravely. And we'll start with Jenkins. He graduated from the Architectural Engineering Department at NCA&T in 1949. He's noted as one of the first two African American architects to work for a white firm in the state of North Carolina. And that firm was actually started by Ed Lowenstein, who came to Greensboro in the late 40s. He was instrumental in the introduction of modernist architecture to Greensboro. Both William Street, who I'll talk about a little later, and Clinton Gravely also worked with Lowenstein in their early careers in architecture. In 1953, Jenkins became the third registered black architect in North Carolina after Gaston Alonzo Edwards and William Street. And in 62, when he started his own firm, it became the first in the state to be run by a registered African-American architect. He designed several buildings on the campus of NCA&T. Aggie Pride. All right, you can't leave me hanging out here, guys. Come on, come on. I'm an honorary Aggie. I know that doesn't hold much weight in some circles, but I think it's really, really important. But, and he also designed a number of homes in the new historic district, including his own home on Ross Avenue. Other houses in the district designed by Jenkins were the Bishop Wyoming and Mary Wells house, which again Chief Justice Fry and Shirley Fry now reside. He designed the William Hampton house on Ross, Dr. Hampton, the Ellsworth and Ella Smith house on Ellis, the William and Juanita Goldsboro house on Marlboro. He's probably best known, though, for the J. Kenneth Lee house on Broad Avenue, which is, of course, here in the district, and the James B. Dudley High School Gymnasium. He also designed that, and that's an award-winning structure that he designed. And the next slide, William Street, or do I get to do that? Oh boy, technology. Okay, there we are. All right, William Street. In 1962, he became the second registered African-American architect in North Carolina, and as I mentioned, Gaston Alonzo Edwards was the first, nearly 40 years earlier than Mr. Street. And he was also the second African-American architect to join the North Carolina chapter of the American Institute of Architects. He was a Tuskegee Airman in World War II and chair of the Architectural Engineering program at North Carolina A&T from basically 1949 to 1985. And under his watch, the department grew, the certifications grew. He was a phenomenal leader for that. And through that department, we actually have connections with Clinton Gravely, with Ed Jenkins, with Gerard Gray, which are some of the other architects that were instrumental in the South Benbow Road area, the new historic district. He designed his own home on Tuscaloosa. He designed the Frank and Gladys White House on Eastside Drive and the Alfonso and Ruth Gore House, also on Eastside Drive. And attributed to Street is the Calvin and Gertrude Morrow House on Stevens, among others. There are other buildings that they designed throughout Greensboro, but again, this is the Frank and Gladys White House here. Currently under renovation, and we'll have to talk about that. I've talked with the developer, but yeah, we'll have to talk about that. One of my duties is to be an advocate for you and I used to stalk the neighborhood. I told people I'll stop telling people that, but I used to drive through the neighborhood and just because I was so excited about everything that I found out in the neighborhood. But when I saw construction happening on the, whoops, where are we going? Trying to go backwards. Oh well. Okay, thank you. Yes, when I was driving through the neighborhood and I saw construction had begun. This was last summer, I think. And so I took it upon myself to stop and to talk with whoever I could find out who was in charge of this space, so that they would know what they were doing, first of all, they would understand the history, that they would understand what they're having, so that they wouldn't come in and just do some crazy stuff, you know, like some folks are prone to do. And I don't know how much it worked, but the house is still here, which is good. So, you know, that's a start. But that's part of my self-appointed duty and purpose, is to make sure that anyone moving into the area, and even though I'm not yet a resident of the area, but just make sure that they understand, you know, what they're purchasing into, the culture that they're purchasing into. All right. Yes, Gerard Gray graduated from NCA&T in 1942 with honors. He served in World War II as a commissioned officer in the Army Corps of Engineers and earned his master's degree in architectural engineering from the University of Illinois in 1949. He worked as a draftsman and served in the Army Corps of Engineers in the Korean War before moving back to Greensboro to become associate professor at NCA&T, and this was in 1953. He worked part-time as a draftsman for Greensboro architect Thomas P. Heritage before starting his own practice in 1961. He never worked for Lowenstein. Sometimes folks attribute, all of them work for, no, not every African-American architect worked for Lowenstein. But, and Gray was one that did not, although he did work with Jenkins on several projects. And he designed the Alvin and Gwendolyn Blunt House here on East Side Drive. He also designed the Eugene and Lorena Morrow House. He also designed the Charles and Fannie Fountain House on Dudley. And attributed to Gray is the Hattie Liston House, also on East Side Drive. Now, Gray served again as an associate professor and full professor of architectural engineering at NCA&T until 1974. And from 74 to 81, he served as director of the physical plant at A&T. And in 82, he left to serve as VP of director of the physical plant at Prairie View A&M, where he retired, and then he moved back to Greensboro. Clinton Gravely, the next slide, thank you. Grew up in Reedsville, North Carolina, where his father and grandfather were contractors. In 55, he entered architecture at Howard University, finishing in 59. After some time in the military, he returned to North Carolina and worked for his father until a position with Lowenstein's firm opened up. And at the time, Mr. Gravely joined the Lowenstein firm. Two other African-American architects, Jenkins and William Guppel, were also working at that location. And Guppel left soon after Mr. Gravely came in. I think Guppel moved to New York, and there's not a lot known about the work that he did locally. But of course, Clinton Gravely, he opened his own firm after working with Lowenstein for almost a decade, I think, in 67, and over the years amassed a portfolio of over 900 projects, including over 100 churches. And he also designed the A&T Library, and of course Providence Baptist Church, Shiloh Baptist Church. And he also did some additions or renovations to other houses within the neighborhood, like the Gore House, the Watkins House, and I think there was another house and that he also worked on as far as doing renovations within the newly listed South Benbow Road Historic District. That has a nice ring to it, I'm telling you. Oh my goodness. Okay. These mold-breaking African-American architects had most of their commissions in the northern third of the historic district. And please forgive me if I don't get all the names right. I was admonished not so that I wouldn't get in trouble, not to try to mention the names. I know there's like in the northern third of the district, you had Spalding Heights, Spalding Park. You had some land that was owned by Coggins, and some other folks. I've interviewed people whose family, like the Goldsboroughs, had land also within the district. And from there, all trailblazers and innovators who forged pathways along which others walked, and then were able to contribute their skills and talents to the noble effort of establishing a place for people during a time when, for some, the mere thought of such an effort by such a people raised both eyebrows and ire. But community, as it is apt to do, will prevail. And today we're celebrating the South Benbow Road Historic District, the newly listed South Benbow Road Historic District. Now, other craftspeople, builders, tradesmen, electricians, plumbers, and plasterers all came together and contributed to this noble effort. And what you will encounter, even on a short walk or short bus ride through the newest historic district, is lasting evidence of the success of that Herculean effort by an improbable people. Developers like Bill Kirkman and Joseph Curry, operating under the name of Better Homes, Inc., were a part of both the Clinton Hills and the Benbow Park thirds. Each district actually maintains about a third, make up about a third of the total district. And they were instrumental in the development, again, of what is Clinton Hills and Benbow Park, each comprising roughly a third, I guess I need to just read my notes, of the district, both extending just above Florida and East Florida, East Stevens, and this is where I get in trouble, so I'm going to stop calling names, street names and things. I mentioned that this is Greensboro's second largest historic district, with over 200 acres as a part of this district, including all the portions of more than 30 city blocks. It's primarily residential, though it also includes the L. Richardson Hospital, the 1966 L. Richardson Hospital, Pilgrim Baptist Church, Providence Baptist Church, Trinity AME Zion Church, St. James Presbyterian Church, and St. Paul's Baptist Church, all a part of this new historic district. The stories of the residents of our new historic district and their accomplishments, that's why it's critical that we all be about this important work, and that we all take on the responsibility of being advocates for preservation, for documentation, and for education, so that through our collective efforts, we might all be able to leave a grand legacy of accomplishment for generations to come. For we all are buoyed by the stories captured in the oral histories, the stories of perseverance and determination and resilience and fortitude, and again, to be able to walk through the district and see the homes and other structures that are tangible, physical reminders of that determination and resilience and fortitude. That, to me, is awe-inspiring. So please come with us, join us on this wonderful journey. Thank you for, oh yes, some of you may recognize some of the homes here in the South Benbow Road, but again, thank you, and I think the panel discussion is next.
That's right. Thank you so much, Eric. And I think, as we know, a neighborhood, a district is its neighbors. So Eric was really, when we were talking about pulling this program together, he said, we really need to have some folks who live in the neighborhood to come up and talk about what it's like to live in this historic district. So we've got a few folks who I'm going to invite up to the stage, and Eric's going to ask you guys a few questions, and then if we have enough time, folks in the audience, we can have some questions as well. But so I want to invite up Benita and Bernard Bell, Alvin Blunt, Ms. Wanda Moorhead, T.O. Stokes, Cassandra Nash Watkins, and Scott and Camilla Wood. If you all could hop on up. And if somebody has a microphone in your seat, just press the little button until the little green light comes on, and then don't say anything you don't want heard by everybody else.
Man, before they've said a single word, let's give these folks a hand. A round of applause. Yeah, this is why I do this. Yeah, so we've got to be able to see everyone here. Yeah. Oh my goodness. Thank you, Councilwoman Hightower again, and Councilwoman Wells for, again, your support for this effort. We could not have done it without you. Thank you. And so now, And my phone's actually out of memory, so someone can please get some photos of this here. We have with us a panel of very special people, some of whom have firsthand knowledge of the history and history makers of the South Benbow Road Historic District. We have siblings and twins, Dr. Danita Bell and Bernard Bell. We have Alvin Blunt. We have, I talked with you out in the rain. Scott, let's see, where's the minute? Oh, he's going to, okay. Okay. All right, Scott Wood. We have Mr. T.O. Stokes, and I think there's a nickname that you... Pella? Pella, okay. I know. Excellent. Ms. Cassandra Nash Watkins and Ms. Wanda Moorhead. Again, if we can give them a round of applause. And first, I'll ask, and you guys, some of you don't know, there are only 2 questions, but first, I'll ask each to introduce themselves, and if you can share a little bit of your history within the district, where you lived or live, and let's see, and who were you connected to within the district that constitutes, as Glenn Perkins has said, an encounter with history. Now, I love that, an encounter with history, and each of you have had that encounter with history. And in the next round of the panel discussion, we'll find out from each of our panelists what the historic designation means to them. And finally, if we do have some time left over, we'll open it up to questions from the audience, and depending on how much time, maybe even a short story or two from some of the audience. Short story. So if we'll get started, and again, if we can start here, if you give us your names, and again, how long you've lived in the district, and what your connection to history.
First, let me thank all of you for coming out, and I want to thank Eric, you and your team. They always say nothing great occurs without a great team. So you can just see all of the hard work that has been put into this historic landmark, and for that we want to thank all of the community for your support. We couldn't do it without you, and we want to thank the team, and I want to thank so many of my neighbors that I see up here that I've known forever. And so the fact that, we have such a rich history. Eric, I just cannot get over the fact that I was just in awe of your presentation it was a history lesson, but it brought back so many memories. So I'm Benita Bell, and we grew up at 1700 South Benbow Road. And so when you think about that home was there for 50-some years. And when I think about the talent, when you think of the architects, and our parents were Dr. and Mrs. Arthur P. Bell, and our father, who only passed about 3 months ago, he would always give us lessons on the history of the neighborhood. And so it really is just a rich and it's a storied history. And so when you look at the educators that were responsible, so many of us up here, our education, we look at our family, our parents, all of our parents knew one another, which was such a beautiful thing. And as you said, the doctors, the lawyers, the educators, and we were really a community. It was a community not just rooted in education or academia or stature. It was really a community that was connected by love. And so with that, my heart just smiles on today. And I just want to say thank you. And then I grew up there, like I said, that house, our home was about 50-some years old. So we know the community so well. And when I look out and I see Sharon and Goldie and so many people here, it just makes my heart smile.
So I'm Bernard Bell. Obviously lived the same place she lived, so I won't go into that. But we moved back about 7 years ago and decided to move back to the neighborhood. One of the things that I love has been the architecture in the neighborhood. And so one of my goals was anything that came up in the neighborhood, I tried to at least let the folks know that I was interested in trying to acquire the properties, not trying to be a real estate magnate, but really trying to protect the integrity of the neighborhood. And when I drive up and down Benbow Road and I see people parking on their grass, It hurts my heart because my daddy was in agriculture, and the neighborhood we grew up in, your yards were very important. And we always know the renters because how much time we spent manicuring our yards. Ain't no way you would park on it if you cut it. And we had a daddy who would get down on the ground and look horizontally and make sure all the blades of grass were cut even. And so one of the things I met Eric walking through the neighborhood because our neighborhood, such a tight neighborhood, when we see outsiders, we go up to them, we want to know who they are. And so we saw him walking around, and he's done an amazing job of trying to preserve the neighborhood. My goal is to try to make sure that the individuals that look like me, not necessarily as handsome as I am, but look like me, and again, this is not a race thing, but when I say look like me and have the same values, we're trying to preserve the neighborhood because the individuals that I know that built those homes were smart black men. And they did not challenge anybody because they knew their stuff because they had been trained by the best. And so when I walk through those houses, some of which I have been blessed enough to acquire, I see the craftsmanship of black men, mostly who grew up in farming communities, moved to Greensboro, understood the value of putting together a collective type of people who had the same values and desires to move their careers, their families and stuff forward. And I am committed to honoring that. And so I appreciate this dude and all these folks on here because you all also have the same goal as honoring that. And what I realized is I only try to get them because I want to make sure nobody gets them who does not value the history that I grew up with.
Good afternoon. My name is Alvin Blunt III, and I've been a member of this community for all my life, and just humbled by the work of Eric and Councilwoman Hightower and Councilwoman Wells. As a matter of fact, you two ladies remind me of banana pudding and cheesecake combined because those two layers together, but you guys your words were perfect. You guys culminated what this day represents in this community. And just thankful for this opportunity, thankful and humble to be a part of this community. Our family is, and it's just, you take it for granted. You're already immersed in the history, and you take so many things for granted. Because we grew up all doctors, lawyers, but we didn't look at doctors and lawyers. We just names of us as kids playing in the neighborhood, and we took so many things for granted. The safety, security, just the beautiful yards, and how people respected one another. And sadly, some of that's kind of disappearing, regardless of skin tone. But sometimes skin tone, we kind of disrespect that. And prayerfully and hopefully people will respect that once again to take care of such neighborhoods so we could be still a diamond. We are a diamond. It's so hard to comprehend that we're worldwide known. This is not on the Black Wall Street, not Harlem, but we were designated first. Little old Greensboro, we were designated first. It's just mind-boggling to think about that. With that being said, I'll be blunt and stop what I'm saying and pass the mic on to Scott.
Good afternoon. My name is Scott Wood. My wife Camille. We moved into the J. Kenneth Lee house in 2017. I was probably I went to A&T State University, Aggie Pride, and I used to drive down Benbow Road, or I was ride down Benbow Road, and I used to see that house, and I was like, that house, it's not supposed to be there. It looks like it should be in California or something. I always remember that house. And when me and my wife, we used to live in Summerfield, and I was working at Dudley as basketball coach, and also there working at Dudley. And we have two boys, and our son, my oldest son, wanted to go to Dudley. He was at Northern at the time, so I started looking in the neighborhood. I always liked that neighborhood. I would start looking. And the real estate magnate over here, he was buying up everything. I couldn't find anything. Every time I have one on my radar, he'd come and snatch it up. And I was like, man, I don't think we'll ever get in that neighborhood, and a friend of mine that I used to work with, his name was Matthew Goodman, his dad, he grew up on Ross Avenue. So he knew a lot of the people in the neighborhood. And he told me, I thought I lost out on everyone, and we kind of started looking at other different neighborhoods that were close to Dudley. And he told me right after, it was like the new year of maybe 16, he said, listen, Mr. Lee House is going to be coming up for sale. And I said, because if Mr. Bell would have known about it, I think it probably would have been gone. But he told me he overheard that, and he put me in contact with the family. And I was lucky enough, or we were lucky enough to acquire it. And that's when I started learning about the history. Mr. Lee, Attorney Lee's sister, was very incremental in filling me up with the history of J.K. Lee, what he's done over his years, his battles, civil rights battles, and what he's done from University of North Carolina, Chapel Hill, to integrate the first law school there. And she wrote a book about him, and she gave me the book, and then she also introduced me to some neighbors, Marvin Watkins, a lot of people that had history in that neighborhood. And it was just, they welcomed us with open arms, and it was very significant, especially to our family and to our boys. So, that's pretty much it. We acquired it. We did do a little bit of renovation, but not much. But it has a lot of, and with Mr. Watkins, he told us there's a lot of history there, from Thurgood Marshall to Dr. Martin Luther King had been there. So it's a lot of history within that residence and within the neighborhood. So it's kind of a standout house. So we're proud to have it, and we're going to take care of it as well as we possibly can.
Tess, you can pass that one back down. Just don't give it to Bernard. My name is Pello Stokes. My dad is T.O. Stokes, my mom's Alma Stokes. They were originally asked to be here. They're both in their 90s. They were the original family that moved into Benbow Park on the corner of Finley and Southside. Actually, the Logans moved in a day before they did, but they were the two first families in Benbow Park. And they're still there on that corner. And one thing you will notice about the houses in Benbow Park, those early houses, there are no garages. There's not a garage on any house. My parents added one later, but those houses were not designed with garages. So that's one key fact that you may note as far as architecture. Eric, you put that in your notes next time. But they're still there. They've probably forgotten more history than I will ever know. I was just a young fellow when we moved in there in the winter of 1959-60. It was right there at the beginning of 1960. And interestingly, there are still just basically woods all around the neighborhood. A year or so later, they built the shopping center up on what's MLK now, was Ashboro Street then. Then they built, of course, the hospital down the road. So as young folk, everybody had kids in their house that moved into that neighborhood, and everybody played together, everybody lived together. There was no such thing as, if you did something, everybody's gonna know about it. And everybody would discipline you, regardless of who your mom and dad was. If they were not at home when you did something wrong, the neighbors would get you before they would get you. So that was a different time back then, but you didn't have to lock your doors. You could keep your windows open all night. You could sleep on the porch if you wanted to. It was just a different time, a different era. And there's so many people that came through during that time that we've just scratched the surface as far as the historical significance of that particular area. Not only doctors, lawyers, but businessmen, professors. That whole area up and down Benbow Road, down to what's actually Benbow Park, it was just an area that developed so many tremendous people. It just was a time where you learned right from wrong, and you knew what was right, you knew what was wrong, and people made sure you knew. And it stayed with you, hopefully, and from the people that I've known throughout the years, it has stayed with them, and it's developed a lot of great people that have lived in that particular area, not only from educational standpoint, but athletically. I mean, some of the people that would come in and out of Benbow Park, it was like a who's who of the NBA. On a Sunday afternoon, on the basketball court, you would have NBA players. Back then, of course, the Cougars were in town. The Cougar players would come down there just to get a good game because they couldn't get it in the ABA. So they would come down there and play against some of the guys in Benbow Park. You know, Bob McAdoo would bring some of his friends down that played in the NBA. Dr. J, Julius Irvin was there a few times, David Thompson. I mean, it goes on and on and on. So historically, you know, culturally, athletically, educationally, it's definitely one of the areas that should be, and I'm glad it is, being highlighted because it was such a tremendous area and will always be. Okay? All right. Thank you so much.
Good afternoon. My name is Cassandra Nash Watkins. And for many of you all, you don't know that Clinton Hills was the first neighborhood. Absolutely. My parents were the original owners of 1801 Curry Street, Morgan and Magdalene Nash. I am the third sibling in that family. My brother Wade, who is in the back, Wade Nash, and my sister Cynthia Nash McCain. We were there, well, the house is still there. We still own the house. My son, who is in the back, and his wife live there now. And in terms of the architect of the house, back during my day, those popcorn ceilings were popular. Well, we just got rid of them thanks to my son, who said, you got to get rid of this. But we did. I grew up, I was 2.5 when we moved into our house in 1956. I would turn 3 in October. The many things that I remember about our neighborhood, of course, they've spoken about the many different educators and outstanding individuals in Clinton Hills, and most of our neighbors worked at A&T in some capacity. Everyone knew you. You knew everyone. We played with kids in Benbow Park. We would go down to Benbow Park, and as a child, I would play with going across the river. I'm not going to tell you how we did that, but we would swing across that little creek. Had a wonderful time down there, and when we moved in on Curry Street, and we're on the corner of Curry and Oxford, there were no houses on the left side of Oxford, just a great big pile of dirt that we used to play in. We had hills, Bel Air, Cambridge, and in the winter when it snowed, we would use the tops of trash cans and have a wonderful time going down Oxford and Bel Air and those hills and things. I left Greensboro in 1978. I got married in 76, and we moved to the Atlanta area. I had 3 children, and all 3 of them had the opportunity to come to A&T and experience living at 1801, which was wonderful. When I was growing up there, I didn't realize that it was such a special neighborhood. I just knew that we knew everybody in the neighborhood. The Bonners on Bel Air and Dr. Armstrong, Coley Hooker across the street, Vance Gray on the other side of us, and it was just, you just knew everybody. You played with all the children that were in the neighborhood. But it was a wonderful experience for all of the kids who were in the neighborhood, because yes, we were under the eye watch of all of the adults in the neighborhood. I went to Blueford, then went to Gillespie, then Smith High School. And before you can get home, someone would tell what you had done. We would come home from Blueford when I was a little girl, and I'd be with some of my friends. And in the fall, when all the leaves were out there, some that had been raked to the streets, we'd fall into those leaves and have a great time. And before I could get home, I was told what I did, and that was okay. But I do want to just thank Mr. Woodard and all of those who worked on this. This is absolutely wonderful. Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Wanda Moorhead, and I'm a transplant. I was not born here in North Carolina at all. However, in listening to all of these stories, it's very similar to where I grew up. I grew up in Harlem River Projects, which is now the first projects in New York City, and it was documented as that such with renovations and all of that. And we were a family in our apartment building. Everybody knew each other. All the parents knew each other. I have relatives that lived above me, and so we would bang on the pipes to, come up or whatever. But how I got here to the Benbow area is when I moved here, my husband used to always ride me around Greensboro because I didn't know too much about it. I visited Greensboro as a little girl a couple of times, and I would always say, I'd never live here. Take me back home. But there was a year that I came, and I just stayed. And so I got married, and my husband would drive me around. And I would always say, I would really love to live in this area. I don't know what it was I was feeling. I didn't know nobody. I didn't. However, I just had an attachment to this area. However, we moved into a new house on Searle Lane. And we lived there for about 10 years, I guess. And then the house came up, and my husband called me off work. You need to come see this house. I'm working. You need to come see it now. It's not going to stay on the market. It's not even listed yet. So I came into the house. I live at 1208 Ross Avenue. And my realtor says, don't look there, just walk straight to the back. And, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to look. But when I got inside the house, I just felt something. And when I looked to the back, it was a sunroom. And windows was all around it, and it was a white carpet. And I was like, oh, I want this house. So we bought the house. Downstairs, there was real renters in the house at that time. Goodman was my neighbor. And he knew my husband. Kermit Moorhead is my husband. He knew my husband for some time. In fact, Alvin, I think my husband went to school with you. And Mr. Stokes, your mother was a principal of one of my daughters. It is so amazing how we are connected, but yet not. We are family, and we always come together. So they did damage in the basement of the house. And my husband, he repaired everything, flooring down, ceiling, and I was really blessed. I was really blessed that that apartment was on the market when it was, that we were looking for a house. And I love my house, and I love my community, and let me talk about that. My neighbor, Miss Jenkins, bless her soul, she has transitioned, and she came over and introduced herself to me. And so did Mrs. Goldsboro, who lived right across the street from me. She came over and introduced herself to me and brought me a plant, a flowering plant. She said, put this in the ground. This will flower every year. and it did for a while. And, you know, it was the community that I had when I was in New York. It was like family on the street there. My neighbor next to me, she had a daycare, and one of my nieces attended the daycare. So I was in a community again of people who supported each other and who loved each other and who knew each other. So I am blessed and fortunate to be here today. Sorry my husband is not here, but I appreciate you, Eric, and all the work that you have done to make this happy, and the committee too as well. I really appreciate it very much. And knowing my councilwomen, getting to know you more, and you always, Hightower, have been there, responding to our emails, telling me about, this is your, Ms. Goldie, Councilwoman Ms. Goldie is your councilwoman, and introducing me to you as well. So I really appreciate it, and I appreciate everyone that shared their story today too. Thank you.
I'm going to quickly look over at the timekeeper to see. Okay, all right. Then to each of our panelists, if you can give us a brief statement, 5 words or less, a brief statement as to, you know, one word, right? What does it mean to you to have the South Benbow Road Historic District now official in the National Register of Historic Places?
2 words. It is deeply and incredibly inspiring that this preservation project has taken form, and it's just phenomenal.
I think for me it means that generations to come will recognize the efforts that these black men and women made in this neighborhood.
It's just I guess to me, it's just a representation of humility and just the great legacy left behind by our predecessors, and just to know this could be here for all time. And again, we're world known, worldwide. It's still too mind-boggling.
Yes, it's an honor to be part of it, and thank you, Eric. It's fitting that it was raining today. I remember when I first met Eric, he came to me in the rain. I was like, who is this guy? I'm standing outside with the dog, and he just runs up in the rain, says, listen, do you know where you live? And I was like, yeah, I know where I live, but. And I was like, he was like, listen, I want to get this on the registry. And that was what, 5 or 6 years ago? In the rain, and it was just fitting that it was raining today. But just a quick little story. My son, he was at Lincoln Middle School, and he did it Black History Month, and he was supposed to do a book report on someone. And I said, well, why don't you do it on J. Kenneth Lee? So he did the book report. And the teacher said, well, who is that? So now she should, you know, people will know who these people were in this neighborhood. So that's why I think it's very important. Like I said, what Bernard said, for generations to come, now not only our kids, but everybody will know about the benefit of this community to the society.
Basically, what it means to me is legacy, to think back during that time of the shoulders of the people that we now stand on that face so many insurmountable odds, that did so in such a way that we, as young folk, never even knew. We faced things later that, we found out things later, like I had so many conversations with Dr. Blunt about some of the things that he faced as a physician. Dr. Simpkins, some of the things he faced locally, politically. I got to know these people because of the community I came from, and the people that were there were willing to to impart that knowledge upon me and others in our community, and it's just a legacy that I will always remember and be proud of as far as that particular community.
Well, I think it means to me that all of the work that my parents put in bringing us up really means that, first of all, we were truly blessed, and secondly, it means that our history has not been forgotten, that the worth of our communities are recognized. We can let our children know about our upbringing, their children know about the upbringing and what it meant to live in a historic district.
We're looking at generational wealth, generational history here. That's one of the things that I see in this community. And, you know, because Mrs. Jenkins, she had moved and came back and lived in her father's house. And I think that, number one, I'm proud to be able to be a part of this community. And I just can't wait to see what tomorrow is going to bring. I really can't, because you started something here. And the recognition is a stamp for the whole world to see what we have here.
And let's give our panelists another round of applause, please. Thank you all for sharing. And if I can, just before we get back on the buses, for those who rode on the buses, the steering committee for the South Benbow Road Historic District, the newly listed South Benbow Road Historic District. If you all will stand, we've got, Heather Slane over there. She's the architectural historian. She actually did the study and the application. And again, Mike Cowig here, of course, this wouldn't be without him. And it's Chad. Yeah, Chad. Yes, it's Benbow Park, baby. It's Chad. Bernita Reed, historian, and did some amazing. Yes, she's tapping people on the shoulder for them to stand as well. Yeah. Okay. All right. But thank you so much. Thank you, everyone, for coming out today to help us celebrate this historic occasion. And lastly, I would like to thank the sponsors who, again, gave donations to the wonderful first part. The City of Greensboro, of course, Collier Engineering, and these sponsors are also in your program. Here, the Community Foundation of Greater Greensboro, EGN, East Greensboro Now, the Historic Magnolia House, City of Greensboro, again, Greensboro Transit Authority, Providence Baptist Church, and Triangle Sound and Services. And we'll turn it back over to Glenn Perkins.
Great. Thank you so much, Eric. I know you all have to get on the bus, so thank you guys all for being here on behalf of the Greensboro History Museum. I do want to invite you to come back next week. Next Saturday, we have a Living History, Black History program where we'll be we've got costumed interpreters bringing to life the stories of all kinds of people from Greensboro's history. It's a great event to bring family to. You kind of wander through our galleries and get to meet history makers from the past. It's terrific, 1 to 4 p.m. Usually takes about 30 to 45 minutes to go through. You can find out other things that are happening here at the museum on our website, greensborohistory.org, our North Carolina Democracy exhibition, which actually covers the whole state of North Carolina, but the election of 1970 focuses on Greensboro and also includes, kind of features the story of Henry Fry and his run for the North Carolina legislature at that point. So one of the, a district member represented here in just one throughout our galleries. So come back and visit us anytime. We're free, thanks to the City of Greensboro and our nonprofit partner, GHM Inc. So thank you all so much for being here today. Thank you, our wonderful panelists, and Eric, and everybody who took part. And we'll see you again soon.